try and to have more communication and more engagement.
ठीक है.
We can use more.
Namaste, we are live.
Atma Namaste.
Atma Namaste. We are on the day 6 of Pitru Paksh and with Lakshmi ma'am again, and we would be happy to understand more on the polarities that if the soul is there and incarnated soul is there, is this one? Is there a polarity, or how does this whole aspect takes place? Could you enlighten on this? Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, let us start with the invocation. We humbly invoke for the blessings of the Supreme Parabrahman, the Divine Father, Divine Mother, my spiritual teacher and all spiritual teachers, all the great ones, all the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas, the Paramatmas, Tirthankaras, prophets, archangels, holy angels, and spiritual helpers. And with the help and the blessings of our higher souls and divine self, thank you for the purification, strengthening, empowerment, upgradation, alignment, to be able to fulfill our part in the manifestation of the great vision, the accomplishment of the divine plan on this Mother Earth. We thank you for the priceless, constant downpour of infinite blessings. Thank you. So, the word polarity translates into more of the vernacular or the Sanskrit language as the Dvaita. There are two aspects to life. There are two sides of a coin, which sometimes we can call as the two extremes. Sometimes from the point at which you are standing, it could be called the good or the bad. As the pendulum swings from one extreme to another, life too has a constant mode of swinging from one attitude to another attitude. Or sometimes, when we have extreme attitudes, we technically are at one point and then we get pushed by our own karmic actions into the other extreme. So the push, if you are a person who is extremely, let's say, happy, who express too much of happiness to the degree of excitement, then it is a possibility that you could be pushed to the other extreme, which is being depressed or sad. So if you know the pendulum, it swings, 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 swings. And this is the law of the world. Every human being has to go through these swinging moments. And then one fine day, as the evolution progresses, as they learn discernment, as they develop the mental body, इंसान जब इमोशनल लेवल पे ही सोचता है तो अक्सर दो एक्सट्रीम्स के बीच में झूलता रहता है, जैसे झूला है, literally like a swing. When we are able or capable of raising our mental thought patterns, or we are able to function from a higher degree of the mind, where the emotions can be transcended and they come into balance. So as in the Gita, the word used is sthita prajnatha, a state of equilibrium based on intelligent evaluation analysis, and discernment. In the Ashtanga Yoga, this state, is reached. So yoga is generally defined. When I say yoga, I'm not talking about exercises. I am not at all talking about the asanas or the pranayama or the breathing alone. When I say yoga, the word implies Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga was a mode of life which was intended to bring the normal human being to a state of calmness, peace, equilibrium. The word is equilibrium. Stop swinging. Yes. If I would say it in another manner, when you look at yourself, at your life, sometimes you find your graph going up and down. Sometimes intense happiness, sometimes depression. Sometimes extreme self-confidence that I can win the moon, I can bring down the sun, and sometimes so much low self-esteem and low self-worth that you dip. So people aim for a relationship, they long for relationships, and when they get into it, the fear of intimacy, the fear of losing somebody you love. So these are like the extremes. There are no end to the duality and the extremes. The situation is called Dvaita. There are two parts, two ways, two things. The Jivatma tends to be in this condition. Whatsoever you try, as long as you will continue to only be in the consciousness of the Jivatma, the duality will remain. Whatever you try, all that you will try with the mental faculty or the Manomaya Kosha or the mind, part of the Jivatma. Whatever you will try with the emotional body or what we call as the astral body in many texts is the part of the Jivatma. You have not gone out of the incarnated soul into the higher soul or the over soul or the controlling energy. The moment you orbit out of this energy of the Jivatma into the Atma is where equilibrium begins. With the advent of the nervous system, started fear. Fear was imbibed into the human consciousness the moment that the sympathetic nervous system came into complete automatic play. The fear seeped into it. Yes, so says Alice Bailey through the channeled writings of Master DK. So the fear enters into the nervous system. And what is the only way for this fear of losing something, the fear of having gained something, the fear which constantly grips you, the fear of the possibility that I may end my life as a loser, or even though I have been successful, the fear of losing it. The options for these are endless. The options based on the relationships, based on your education, your wisdom, your fame, your position, your recognition. The options are simply endless. But the duality will persist as long as the mind within which the mental, the emotional, and the physical body persists. So even after death, does the duality persist? Is the question. The duality will persist as long as you have not transcended into the consciousness of the higher soul. There are no two ways to it, because the world that we are in now is based on the law of the pendulum. It is simply based on the law of the pendulum as on now in this race. Yes. So if you go back in history, with the advent of certain civilization, which we will call as the Aryan civilization, which was depicted by the advent of the Lord Rama, he is recognized as a person of balance, out of the jungle Raj and into the civilization, where discernment was introduced. If you look into history, or if you look into whatever information is available, which can be called as mythology or history, the avatars before that of Lord Rama are all depicted in certain kind of an extreme. If you look at even Parashuram, he killed because that was the only way to maintain sanity. So Lord Ram, he was the beginning of the embarkment of civilization. The ability to balance was demonstrated. The ability to discern was demonstrated. And that is where exactly each one of us have to go. We have to lift our ways of thinking, deciding from even the mental level into a consciousness beyond. We will just look at it, how we will be able to do it. So yoga or Ashtanga yoga is described as Chit Vritti Nirodha. That means the imbalances which plague the mind can be seized by the practice of yoga. Now, Ashtanga yoga has 8 steps. So the first, or 8 limbs, not steps, steps is the wrong word, 8 limbs, 8 pillars. So the first 2 pillars are Yama and Niyama. What to adopt in life and what to restrain from. You see, what should I accept, adopt as good, and what should I restrain, which is not good. So this aspect of Yama and Niyama is also a concept of duality. To love, to be kind, to not injure. But at the point of the Jivatma, to love and to not injure are 2 aspects completely different. Now, to understand how sometimes an injurious act can actually be defined as a loving and compassionate act, where the differences, the extremities will blur. The Dvaita or the extremities will blur. In the normal layman language, you need to practice love and kindness. And none of your actions should have a tinge of injury. But it all depends on what is your discernment. So,
Ma'am,
this
when
is
it
a
comes,
story. I'll just finish with the story.
Mhm.
So, the story is from the Nyingmapa tradition. So, he's Jigme Ling, who is the author of the story. So, the story is about Gautam Buddha. Now, we are aware of Gautam Buddha's many, 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 many incarnations, all depicted through the Jataka tales and various other memoirs or memories that he has presented himself in this birth. So, as one of the memories, the story I just quote from the teachings of the Nyingmapa, Jigme Ling. So, Gautam Buddha, in one incarnation, is the captain of a ship. And the ship is now being threatened. It could be robbed. It was planned to be robbed by a very strong person. A personality was extremely strong and robust, that it was almost impossible to take over him. Now, Gautam Buddha had a couple of options in front of him. One is to just ask him, like we would always say, have a healthy discussion. Yes, and wait if the person will dissolve. That was one. Second, he would capture the person, but the person was so strong and so robust, he would just empower everybody there. He would overpower everybody there, and he would get loose and kill and maybe still rob and escape. The third choice had a tinge of injury, but that was for the greater good. So he had an option to actually, Gautam Buddha had a third option to silently kill this person who was plotting to rob the entire ship, kill the people who are sleeping, and escape. So the third option is what Gautam Buddha decided upon. And this is supposed to be an act of great mercy, or one of the greatest acts of mercy. Now, let us just look at why this is called as one of the greatest acts of mercy. See, if this person had the option to kill others and rob, and Buddha just chose to be the loving, the polite self, then all those people who would have died being robbed, being brutally murdered, would spend many, many years in hell, because they are going to take the fear of that extreme death, the fear of that being casualties, being victimized to a brutal end. And if the person had robbed and killed all of these people, that person would also be in misery for many, 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 many incarnations thereafter. The cycle would have been endless. So Gautam Buddha chose the path of karma with no after effect. That is called as Nashkarmya, an action which is done for the greatest of good, which has no personal intent, which is done with great discernment and illumination, is an action which will dissolve your Jivatma's hold on you and raise you to the consciousness of the higher soul. Yes. So there are abounding examples. So today morning, I was just going through my WhatsApp, and there was this beautiful story of and I guess it was an Olympic race. I may be just out of quotation, but yeah, if anybody can correct me, it was the story of two runners. So this Kenyan runner, yes, who was sprinting and he was almost reaching the end much before the rest of the group. Since he could not read English, stopped before the finish line and was just wondering, have I already finished or not? And there was this other person from another country who was running behind him at number 2, second. And he, realizing that this Kenyan was not able to decipher or not able to read, that he has not reached the finish line, he made a decision to push that person to the finish line and land second. And that is an act of morality. That is an act where you do not take advantage of people's weakness and ignorance. So the choice to shift out of this pendulum world, the choice to shift out of the extremities, the dvaita, the duality, is completely laid upon our shoulders. It is an option that we choose on a day-to-day basis, which catapults us to a point of equilibrium, and then the fear is transcended. Of all the jargon of discussions that we have of the existing situations on this earth, the only true reality, as long as the person remains in the consciousness of the Jivatma, remains under the grips of the sympathetic nervous system, the duality will continue to exist. Whatsoever is done, the only way to shift out is to choose to connect to the frequency of the higher soul. So this process can be done by bringing the soul consciousness into the Agya chakra and the pituitary gland directly connected to the Agya. The word Agya in Sanskrit means a direct command. Yes? So the command of the divine to be implemented at this particular point. So you may choose to spend some time focusing on your breath, simply focusing on the breath. Put 3 fingers like this at the Ajna chakra, specifically the left hand 3 fingers. The Agya chakra, left hand 3 fingers. And the prayer to be repeated with complete focus on this chakra is as follows. You simply have to say to yourself, I am that I am. You can keep your focus on that chakra, or you can keep 3 fingers on this chakra to remind you that you are focused over here. You just repeat and remind yourself, I am not this duality. What am I? I am definitely not this duality. You may continue to keep the 3 fingers at your Ajna chakra, and we'll just remind ourselves for a couple of things. Yes, I am definitely not the duality. I am not the fears, the insecurities. I am not the fears and insecurities. I am not the fear of being left alone in this life, never being able to find somebody to love. This fear, if it is there within me, I'm not this. I am not a feeling or fear of low self-esteem and low self-worth. I am not the failure or the success. These are simply situations and emotions. It is not I, for I am the soul. I am not capable of being completely independent, nor I have to constantly depend on others. I am not the thoughts. I am not the emotions. I am definitely not the mind. The mind has multitude of thoughts. The emotional body has multitude of emotions. I am not any of this. I am not even the religion. I am not the community. I am not this feeling of being wanted to be appreciated. I am not this feeling of depression, sadness, or enthusiasm. I am not even the feeling of extreme happiness or excitement. I am none of this. I am none of these feelings and emotions. I am not the mind. I am simply a spiritual being of divine intelligence, divine love, and divine power. And I am one with my higher soul. And I, as a soul, am one with the divine spark or the Paramatma within me. I am a child of God. I am connected one with God. I am one with God and I'm one with all. The power of God be in my Agya Chakra. The power of God be in my Agya Chakra. The power of God be in my Agya Chakra. Okay, so this is step number 1. This can be practiced on a daily basis. What am I is the question that you need to answer. I am not all those thoughts, all those emotions, all the dualities. I'm not the needs I'm trying to constantly meet. You know why all this is important? Because after death, many people long for death. If you ask most of the people, they would just have one question: oh no, I don't want to come back. I don't want to come back to a life of struggle. I don't want to come back to take all these decisions. I don't want to come back and go back to school and do all this work and earn money and lose money, earn a relationship, lose a relationship. I don't want to do all this. Everybody has a fear. Everybody feels that they're not worth. And this life has not been up to their expectations. But you know, after death, what happens? You stay in the higher world. Sometimes you reach even heaven. And then you get bored. You get bored of the tranquility. You get bored of the peace. You get bored of everybody being nice around you. Yes, you literally get bored. Because human beings love challenges. And then you decide, oh, I want to come back into this playground, the battlefield of life. This is called as the thirst to come back into life. And this is the reality. Every one of us, constantly looking for solutions, we're extremely bored by all that goodness which seemed to persist around us. It was like deafening silence. You don't believe me? You can just try and remember me the next time you're out of the body. Yes. So There you'll say, oh my God, I'm sure death will be great. Death will be just not happening. Death will be not a challenge every day. Death will be easier. You don't have to strive for food. You don't have to look your best on Instagram. Yes, death will be so much easier. Yeah, people would say all that, Death will be so much easier because you can just stop trying. But as long as you are in this consciousness, there is no stopping of trying. Trying is the natural way of things. It is the natural way of things. You see, constantly you keep trying. And unless there is a challenge, you ask people who have a nice fat pay package, are you happy with life? And the answer would be no. You can run a survey on this throughout the world. They call it job satisfaction. Now ask those people who don't have jobs. They'll say, give me some job and I'll do it right. I will make sure that I will be the best performer. Give that fellow the job. 2 years, 3 years down the lane, ask him, are you happy with your job? He say, no, I'm really not satisfied. My creativity is not flowing. My juices are not flowing. Oh, come on. Are you getting my point? Human beings just love to challenge themselves. And it does not change after you're dead. You just don't like that peaceful, happy, where God visits once in a while area. And you say, oh my God, no, I have to go back there where people said, you are a fighter. Yes, because I was losing constantly. And people said, oh my God, you're a fighter. See how much struggles in life. Still, you're a fighter. Yes. So this is the world of dualities. And how do I really get out of my duality? And I'll tell you one more interesting thing. Constantly throughout, we keep hearing people saying, create a lot of good karma. Do what is good. Refrain from what is bad. And what would that take you into? Oh, it will take you into some place which is like heaven, beautiful, great. You will just escape hell. Okay? Many scriptures talk about it. And what is heaven? Quite a boring place where nothing is really happening. Nothing is really trending. And you don't have those live shows where people try to be really mean to increase the TRPs. Oh, it's not that interesting. Yes. That is exactly what heaven is about. And so when this good karma account is over, where do you go? You come back. You come back to earth. Oh, that's Bhutnath part 2. Coming back to earth. Long queue. Yes, long queue. You thought that people who are out of the body were happy. No, they are all, even if they have transcended hell and they've gone to heaven, they say, oh my God, we want to come back there. At least we had this tasting food. We had a lot of stuff that we could entertain ourselves with. And here, it's only education. It's only all good, good, good. So any extremities in life is not going to be interesting. Yes, that is how the human being is manufactured. So as long as you are going to sustain in this human consciousness, there will be never a word called as satisfaction. Yes. So where do I go? I stop connecting to all that the way I know it. And I say, I'm none of this. I'm not the body. I'm not the thoughts. I'm not the emotions. I'm not this religion. I'm not this book I brag about. I'm not this Instagram shoot. I'm none of this. None is a reality. I am not any of this. I'm not this intellectual capacity, this philosophical thinking. I'm not the mind. I'm not the great honors that I have received. I am none of this. I am a spiritual being made out of divine light, love, and power. These are the three aspects, the three Trinity. It is the Trinity, or it is the Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva aspects. I am simply that. And I am one with my higher soul. I'm one with the divine spark. I'm one with the Paramatma. And I'm one with God. I'm one with God. And since we are all one with God, we are all one. This is the reality. So try this homework for today. Yes. So in many practices, Tantra, Mantra, many kinds of practices, Raj Yoga, yes, Sylvia meditation, many other ways and means of materializing what you want, practicing, they all focus on this particular chakra, because this is the intersection point between the aspect called as the human being and the aspect called as the higher soul. So the moment you shift through discernment, through understanding, should I take advantage of this person who is ignorant, who is weak? Should I help? What should be the action of greater good? The moment we start discerning, we ask questions, we move up into the state of the higher soul. And in the state of higher soul, there is an experience of true stillness and calmness. But the whole point is, you no longer carry your mind and emotions along with you into the state of the higher soul. So the duality vanishes. So the duality vanishes automatically. No counseling, no suggestions, no discussions, nothing. And then you become like Gautam Buddha, seeing through Angulimal, as if he were a passing cloud. For all your judgments are only limited to your existence of duality. For all your judgments of situations that I'm worth, I'm not worth, I'm great, I'm useless, I'm philosophical, I'm intellectual, I have knowledge, I do not have knowledge, everything is based on a certain perception that you held. And this perception creates a sensation, not the sensational sensation, a sensation in your emotional and your mental bodies, which makes you, or which decides for you to actually react in a certain way. It decides the perceptions that I have accumulated on what is the definition of self-worth, what is the definition of a loser, what is the definition of a failure, what is the definition of success, what is the definition that I have seen from people around. Yes. So when I start cognizing things, recognizing things in a certain way that I have already accumulated, then the sensations work on me. Based on the past perceptions and cognitions, there is a sensation which arises. And Buddha had transcended the perception, the cognition based on the perception, and the sensation which rises about it. All was transcended when he saw through Angulimal as a passing cloud, and that penetrated Angulimal with the energies of the higher soul, straight from the Agya Chakra of Gautam Buddha into the Agya Chakra of Angulimal, and the transformation was instant, because he, through some good karma, was lifted out of that qualities that he held, yes, instantaneously. Okay? So I think we will go on with this homework for today and end our discussion here, that we will remind ourselves with the power of God what I am not and what I am. I am not the knowledge that I have gained. I am not the perceptions that I have accumulated. I am not the way I recognize the world based on the perceptions. I am definitely not the sensations which rise from within me based on a perception. For example, if I have to say a rose is beautiful, that is a perception which has been programmed into me. And the sensation of happiness or beauty experienced from a rose is all that what I have created or all that has been put into me. I am not these perceptions of what is beautiful, what is not beautiful, what is good, what is not good, what is satisfying, what is not satisfying, what is worth, what is not worth, what is shubh, what is ashubh. I am not any of this. I am definitely not any of this. I'm a spiritual being of divine light, love, and power, one with the higher soul. I am the higher soul. One with the divine spark. I am the divine spark or the Paramatma. One with God, and I am one with God, one with all. Focus on the Ajna Chakra. I am one with God. And the power of God enter into the Ajna. So try to do it every hour, every half an hour. Yes. And we will discuss the rest, what to do next after you start practicing this every half an hour. So let's do a Thanksgiving. We thank the Supreme God, the Divine Father, Divine Mother, my spiritual teacher and all spiritual teachers, all the great ones, all the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas, the Paramatmas, the Tirthankaras, prophets, archangels, holy angels, and spiritual helpers. Thank you for the purification, the strengthening, the empowerment, the upgradation, the alignment, to be able to fulfill our part in the manifestation of bringing heaven or goodness, greatness of God into this earth, for acceleration of the divine plan for entire humanity on this earth, for spiritual upgradation, understanding of simple spiritual truths by entire humanity very easily. Thank you for all these priceless blessings. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Atma Namaste. Thank you all for being with us in this session.